My boyfriend would never tell me when he'd be home. He'd just show up randomly after work, after hanging with friends, after whatever he was doing. I'd ask him for a simple heads up so I could plan dinner or make sure I was home, but he'd always blow me off saying he didn't want to feel tied down or controlled. This went on for months. I'd cook dinner and it would go cold because he'd roll in 3 hours late. I'd make plans with friends but have to cancel last minute because he suddenly decided he wanted to spend time together. He'd promise to be home by 7 and stroll in at midnight smelling like beer and acting like nothing happened. I tried talking to him about it nicely. I explained that it wasn't about controlling him, it was just basic respect. But he'd get defensive and say I was being clingy or that his schedule was unpredictable. Meanwhile, I'm sitting at home like an idiot waiting around for someone who couldn't even send a simple text. The breaking point came on my birthday. He promised he'd be home early so we could go to dinner at this nice place I'd been wanting to try. I got all dressed up, did my hair, the whole thing. 6 o'clock came and went. 7, 8. I called and texted but got nothing back. Finally at 9:30 he texts me saying he's at some bar with his buddies and won't be home until late. No apology, no explanation, just a casual heads up like he hadn't completely ruined my birthday. I was furious. That's when I decided to give him a taste of his own medicine. If he wanted to play games with communication, I could play too. The next week when he asked what I was making for dinner, I said I wasn't sure yet. When he got home expecting food on the table, I was gone. I'd gone to eat with my sister and didn't get back until almost midnight. He was pissed, asking where I'd been and why I didn't tell him. I just shrugged and said my schedule was unpredictable. Then I started doing it more. I'd make plans without telling him. I'd stay out late and not respond to his texts. When he'd ask what I was doing that weekend, I'd be vague. If he wanted to hang out, I'd tell him maybe, but then make other plans. He started getting really frustrated, complaining that he never knew where I was or when I'd be home. The irony was completely lost on him. One night he actually had the nerve to say I was being inconsiderate for not keeping him in the loop about my plans. I laughed right in his face. I told him this was exactly what he'd been doing to me for months, that this was how it felt to never know when someone was coming home, to have plans ruined because of poor communication, to feel like you weren't important enough for a simple text. He tried to argue that it was different because he had work and guy time, but I shut that down real quick. I had work too, and friends too, and a life that didn't revolve around waiting for him to decide when he wanted to grace me with his presence. The whole thing came to a head 2 weeks later when he had some work event he wanted me to go to. It was important for his job apparently, and he really wanted me there. But instead of asking me nicely and giving me advance notice, he just assumed I'd drop everything and go. The morning of the event, he mentioned it casually while getting coffee, said we needed to leave at 6 and that I should dress nice. I looked at him like he was insane. I told him I already had plans and couldn't just cancel last minute. He completely flipped out, started yelling about how I was being petty and vindictive, how I was trying to sabotage his career. That's when I'd had enough. I told him he was absolutely right. I was being petty, but maybe now he understood how frustrating it was to be with someone who had zero consideration for your time. I broke up with him that night, told him I was done dating someone who thought basic communication was too much work. He tried to promise he'd change, said he finally got it and would be better about letting me know his schedule, but it was too late.